Right now, the entire paddock has decided that Aston Martin will dominate 2026 with Adrian Newey's genius, Lawrence Stroll's unlimited budget, and Fernando Alonso behind the wheel. And if history has taught us anything about F1's regulation changes, that means they're about to get it spectacularly wrong because the consensus favorite never wins when the rulebook gets rewritten. Walk into any F1 conversation right now, and everyone is saying the same thing. Aston Martin will change F1 in 2026 because Adrian Newey is there. Lawrence Stroll is spending unlimited money, and they've been preparing for those regulations longer than anyone else. The media agrees, the fans agree, even team principals are nodding along. And this isn't speculation anymore, it's become accepted facts, which is exactly why you should be terrified if you're an Aston Martin fan, because this is exactly the same setup that destroys favorites every single time F1 rewrites the rulebooks. Every major regulation change creates a chosen favorite, where everyone aligns with one team that looks perfect on paper. And the pattern is brutal because that consensus favorite almost never wins. And the evidence is written in every regulation reset F1 has ever had. 2014 brought the hybrid era, and Ferrari was the consensus favorite because they had more hybrid experience than anyone else, except Mercedes crushed everyone for 8 consecutive years, while Ferrari just spent the entire hybrid era as the team that should have won but just never did. 2022 and the new ground effect regulations were supposed to shuffle the deck completely, and this time Mercedes was the favorite because they've been developing their concept for over a year while Red Bull was still fighting for 2021. But instead, Red Bull produced the RB18 and began the most dominant era F1 has ever seen. While Mercedes spent 2 years trying to understand why their car still didn't work. The patterns always repeat. Media builds consensus around one team. Everyone agrees that they will dominate because they're looking at the plain facts. And then reality comes along, and reality just proves the consensus was built on assumptions that collapse the moment cars hit the track. So why does Aston Martin look so perfect that everyone's falling for it yet again? Well, on paper, Aston Martin has everything because Adrian Newey is the greatest designer in F1 history. Lawrence Stroll has unlimited money. Fernando Alonso can extract performances from almost anything. And they started 2026 development early, which means they should have a head start on everyone else. But here's what nobody is talking about. If all of these ingredients guarantee success, then why does Ferrari fail in 2014? When they had unlimited budget, they had early development, they had everything going for them. And why does Mercedes struggle in 2022 when they had the best infrastructure and a full year head start? Well, the answer is that regulation changes don't reward the team with the best ingredients. They reward the team that gets one critical decision right that nobody saw coming. And right now, everyone is so focused on Aston Martin's advantages that nobody is looking for the hidden trap. And that trap is buried in the 2026 regulations themselves. 2026 is more dangerous than anything F1 has ever done before because the new power units are so integrated with the chassis that you can't fix one without completely redesigning the other. Which means if your power unit philosophy is wrong by even 5%, your entire car becomes uncompetitive, and there's no mid-season development that can save you. In 2014, teams could develop the engine and chassis separately. In 2022, you could modify the floor and see improvements, but 2026 links everything so tightly that one wrong decision about battery deployment or electrical motor integration could doom your entire season. This is where Aston Martin's early start becomes a weakness, because while everyone's celebrating that Newey's been working on 2026 since his arrival, that also means that Aston Martin committed to a design philosophy 2 years ago based on simulations. And if real-world data proves those assumptions wrong when testing actually starts, then they won't have time to pivot, while teams like McLaren, who started development later, can choose the concept that actually works. And when that reality checks hit, it's going to separate the pretenders from the actual contenders. 2026 is setting up to rewrite the order in ways that will make everyone's predictions look ridiculous. Because the team that looks perfect on paper is usually the team that's already made the critical mistake. Subscribe to The Last Lap, guys, for the analysis on why Aston Martin's dream might become a nightmare and which teams are actually in the position to really dominate in the year. Go and check out the channel, guys. There's a bunch of content on there that I guarantee you are going to love. But right now, I have a question for you. If Aston Martin is walking into a trap, who actually has the advantage? The 2026 champion won't be Aston Martin despite Newey, because the team that wins will be the one that kept their options open while everyone else locked themselves into concepts that looked brilliant 2 years ago, but fail under real conditions. McLaren sits in the perfect position because they won 2024, which gives them resources to develop properly. They've kept Norris and Piastri, who are both fast enough to extract everything from an imperfect car. And most importantly, they're not the consensus favorite, which means they can watch what Aston Martin does, learn from their mistakes, and build a car that avoids the traps that destroy the early leaders. Red Bull is a dark horse that everyone's dismissing because Newey left the team. But what if their new technical team actually built something that works precisely because they weren't constrained by Newey's design philosophy? And Ferrari has enough resources that if they get one critical decision right about power unit integration, they could dominate while everyone else is stuck with concepts that they just committed to years ago. Which brings us back to why the consensus is always wrong. Everyone believes Aston Martin will dominate in 2026, but F1 regulations changes, well, they never reward the obvious favorite. And we've seen it time and time again, because the team that commits earliest always gets locked into assumptions that reality just finds a way to destroy. And by the time they realize their mistake, there's no time to fix it. The 2026 champion will be whoever kept their options open long enough to build what actually works instead of what looks perfect in simulations. Now, guys, I want to know from you, who do you think is going to win? Let me know down in the comments down below. Who do you think is the clear favorite? And do you think that the 2026 favorite could be a dark horse? Let me know down in the comments, guys. And don't forget to give us a like and subscribe and turn on those bell notifications so that you never miss another upload. And I will catch you on the next one.